For the newly indoctrinated, Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files follows the story of a professional wizard in Chicago. We've started our podcast as a way to help break down the series' most important moments, characters, and lore. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.
Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 8.17, Things We Lost in the Fire, where we are covering the novel Grave Peril. My name is Tanzin, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
Hey.
Chapter 31. Dresden finally wakes up and learns Michael has been looking out for him. Michael begins to update him on what happened when Thomas arrives. Thomas fills in the blanks and offers a gift, Amoracchius. They try to talk to Lydia, but they find out that she is now controlled by the nightmare.
So I just gotta say, I really like the chapter title you chose for this episode.
Thank you.
Things We Lost in the Fire. That's like, damn.
Right? Kind of gets you in the feels.
Yep.
Dresden comes to. He's burned, he's battered, and he is bruised.
Mm-hmm.
And he is instantly filled with remorse as he remembers all the kids that were trapped in the party.
Just all sorts of fucked up. Psyche and magic and body, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really like, oh, fuck, what did I do?
You know, people talk about survivor's guilt. Yeah. Dresden here. And to be fair, I mean,
It's not even just survivor's guilt, it's causer's guilt.
past survivor's guilt, he's also the cause of a lot of it. So it's like, yikes, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think you've lived regret before.
He really breaks down from this realization. He's just torn up.
And you've had this kind of building up this whole book too. Like there was like that moment with Murphy, and it even says a little bit later in this chapter, like he asks like what is happening with Murphy, and it's like she's still asleep. It's like if Harry had died in there, she might never wake up from that coma again, right? And he's the one who put her into it, right? Admittedly, to save her from a worser.
Well, she would eventually, because he did say it'll keep eroding, but it's going to take some time, and when that happens, she was supposed to revert back into, like, the nightmare,
The horribleness,
basically. So
yeah.
if Harry had died there without taking out the nightmare,
She would have
Yeah.
been worse for wear.
yeah, she'd be lucky if she stayed in the coma.
Right.
She'd probably come out of the coma and be trapped back in.
And this is, as we will also learn later this chapter, you know, both Charity and the baby are also not doing so great right now. Obviously, you know, as we learn, Lydia's not doing so great right now. We're going to learn, you know, throughout the rest of this book, you know, like had Harry died in that fire, right? Or from any other cause from that night, right?
Yeah, if he
we
hadn't
would have
made
been, you know, so many more fires than he needs to put out by the end of this book, right? So on top of that, you know, survivor's guilt and also being the cause of it, you're also just a little bit like, buddy, like, shit sucks. And again, like as I started this sentence, he's been building up all book to having these regrets and having these like things he's gonna have to solve later on, right? So it just very amplifies it right now, like, okay, now we're really at the mourning stage of like just how much shit has gone to shit.
Yeah, he really, like, he is in the shower just sobbing.
Yeah, well, we kind of get some nice visuals because he kind of replays, like, what he did. So you've got, like, this towering inferno and everything like that. And again, it just sort of emphasizing, like, the destruction that he caused, that he managed to pull out at the time because of his grief and anger. And yeah, and then basically he's like, he manages to stumble out of bed and like drag himself to the and yeah, he's like, somebody must have fed me soup because there was something to bring up when I started heaving, you know. So yeah, he's like just, and I mean, I get that. I feel that like we've all, I think, been in places where, and I'm one of those people that, yeah, if I've got something like major cringy or regret worthy or whatever, that yeah, my stomach is just like, I'm gonna, you know,
Right.
Normally I don't, thankfully, but, you know, I totally get, like, that
It fully consumes
visceral
him.
feeling that he's, yeah, and the fact that, yeah, he's, like, I mean, again, as some of it's coming back to him, I'm like, yeah, you were there, like, it's bad enough for us to read about the burns and the things, but we all know, like, olfactory, that's not a good place to be. We all know how strong that is, how connected to memories it is, and to actually be there. And
He said before, like, I can't even begin to describe, like, the smell or the sound or the imagery. Like, so yeah, like, the things that we do get, you gotta know, like, just what could he not put down into words? Or
yeah, that
right?
we get to gloss over so much of it because A, it's not explicit, and we can just do that. Gloss over in our
Or
own memory. What am I
even,
gonna get to?
in nice real fantasy life, when we talk about, like, eviscerating vampire stomachs, we can just, like, you go on where it's like, no, you had to watch that whole thing happen. You didn't get to go, like, fast forward, skim over.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And Michael finds him in the bathroom and takes care of him as if he, almost like he's his father.
Yes.
He pulls him from the shower, dries him off, and he essentially just he
him up
clothes
and-
him. Like,
yeah,
it's just
he sorta
just completely takes care of
mothers
him.
him, fathers him, whatever. Yeah.
Dresden asks Michael how many of them died, and he admits that he found 11 bodies. But what he didn't know is if they had died in the fire or if it was the vampires.
Yeah. And see this again because he's like how many died, how many of them died? He's like he understood. So which makes it feel to me more like he's asking like about the innocence or whatever, right? But then as they continue with this a little bit, it says, that they were hard to, the heat was so intense that the bones hardly looked human. Which to me, again, is referencing the fact that, of course, vampires aren't going to look completely. So I was like,
I was hoping that. I was.
So was it just 11, like, including the vampires and because at first I thought, like, Michael was giving him the number of, like, sort of, like, human, like, potential victims of, like, none of us consider the vampires victims, right? They were... But then when he says it was hard to identify some of them, I'm like, well, if that was 11 including, then I'm like, that really lowers the numbers. Because he also says you got a bunch of the vampires, and I'm like, well, 11 is not huge numbers if you're talking about taking out the vampires. That's a lot if you're talking about the kids and things. So
I think 11 is a lot. Admittedly, when you know that there was like 100 kids, but if Harry killed 11 of them in fire.
No, that's what I mean. If they're talking about the kids, 11 is a lot. If you're talking about... But he's
not talking about the vampires. He says there's a separate thing. He's saying 11 humans.
Well, then that comment about because he's like, Susan, he's like, we don't know. 11 was all they found. They're checking dental records. They said the heat was so intense that the bones hardly looked human. So if it was only talking about 11 human victims, that would... I mean, yes, again, because Harry makes the comment of how hot fire... But I mean, I always sort of took that to mean...
They're not human bones.
It's not the human bones they're finding.
But I think Harry confirms even more when he says, like, that fire would have to be pretty hot for them to start having issues. That just confirms, like, it was so hot that he started deforming the human bodies that he did get with this fire, I think it could be a little bit of both.
I guess this is, just where I'm a little bit not sure.
See, and I think... For how many victims he was, that were like the humans that are already there, for how many vampires that were attacking, and for how many vampires that got consumed by the fire, I don't think 11 is enough.
Well, yeah, because they already killed a whole bunch of vampires before, so those bodies would have just been burned in the fires.
Is it like Buffy? Do they just burst into ash?
And see, that's not how they're dispatched in this, right? We saw the bodies and stuff like this, and we see future evidence that that's not the case. But but that's just where I'm like, yes, it's a lot of human, but anyways, whatever. I just find this a little bit going back and forth that I'm like, I'm not quite sure which way you mean it now, guys.
There's a little bit of a benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, but it's just, I wish they had, anyways, they make it all sound like they're talking about, but then they make it all sound like they're also including vampires, so I'm like, well, which is it? But, yes, if there is 11 bodies just strictly of the human kids or whatever, then that's enough. And we don't know. Like you say, Harry had, did see some of them that were obviously already, but he did see some of them that weren't dead, that were still trying to, make their way out when this thing. So exactly, did he kill just one person and the other 10 were already corpses? Or did he kill 5 people? Or did he kill 11 people? Or, I mean, obviously it couldn't have been that, because obviously unless the vampires really cleaned out everything before, because he also says that he called for the fire department. And when the guy went in to talk to Bianca, all of a sudden he came out all
right.
Calm down and relax and let's go. So obviously, Bianca whammied him in some way or another, but...
Right. Michael debriefs Harry, and that's like he finds out Murphy's still unconscious, that's where he finds out that the police department is not on the case, like you said. And that Susan, Justine, and the sword are still missing. And he lets him know that the baby's still in really weak condition.
Yeah, because Harry asks after. He's like, I called her. He's like, you called?
Right. So he's just dumped on for just shit information.
But, like, to build on that, like, you called, you didn't go, and Harry and Michael is like, I'm guarding you.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
He's like, I bet you love that. Yeah, she's not talking to me.
Dude accepts a job, though. He follows the fuck through.
Yeah, a lot of personal sacrifice on his point.
Seriously, yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly, because he was there with Harry, right? So, I mean, Harry goes through a lot. Like, he's doing, like, I was so arrogant, I was such an idiot to go. And Michael's trying to, like, yeah, because then he's like, all those poor, stupid kids paid the price. He's like, well, a lot of vampires didn't make it either, and he's like, it's not worth it, And Michael sort of goes back and forth with him a little bit, but then he's, eventually he kind of comes to the same thing. Like, yeah, he's trying to make him feel better, but at the same time, Michael's like, yeah, well, he did let loose and shit did happen. So, I mean, at least Michael doesn't try to offer a lot of false platitudes that way. He does do his best to sort of comfort him and sort of be like, well, okay, well, we get the reasoning you were working with, but he doesn't continue going. Yeah. He doesn't try to justify it. He doesn't try to, provide valid reasoning or whatever. He just kind of goes quiet and sort of lets Harry, that way, which is, again, right, I'm like, I think that's very in keeping with Michael. Mm-hmm. And, he's not going to cross that and try and make it sound like it's no big deal, but, again, sort of the way that we are, that we want to offer Harry, like you say, the benefit of the doubt, because we're like, okay, well, we know, but really you're the hero, so, But yeah. So yeah, then he finds out that, yeah, it's essentially been, a good day and a half, a couple of days that he's been passed out for all of this to happen. And
we're now about 2 nights later.
Yeah, it's going to be day again soon or something, or just nightfall again soon, daybreak soon.
Michael recognizes Lydia from Kravos's lair. Mm-hmm. So it's that little bit of extra information going,
so that's how
this is the pieces coming together.
Ties into it a bit from before and stuff like that. Yeah,
one of the people
exactly how, again, some of the random threads aren't always all that random. And while it looks like he has 6 cases on the go, it's only ever 1.
Yeah.
There's an interesting part here that, like, Dresden believes things are going to come back on him karmically. Mm-hmm. But Michael mentions, the law of 3. But then Dresden says that he's uncertain if he believes in it. So he kind of goes instantly back on himself. I was a little bit confused by this. Because he says karma's going to get him, but then he just continues after that to say that he doesn't believe in it.
Yeah.
Like maybe I misread that a bit?
No, I know.
It was really vague to me.
It's like the 11. Are you saying there were vampires or there were vampires? Because you just keep going back and forth. So yeah, exactly. He does... Yeah, because like you say, he says sort of it's going to come back on you. And he's like, I didn't know you read the Bible. He's like, Proverbs always made sense. But he's like, magic, it's a lot sharper and cleaner. Like it, kind of like he feels like he's saying it's a bit more literal or whatever. And yeah, so he's saying... Well, I guess this is not so much because Michael says, I thought you didn't believe in it. And he's like, well, I did, and I don't. It's too much, but stop, So this, I think, is where Harry's maybe kind of struggling with it. Is that...
Is it that was he changing his mind?
A little bit, I think. Yeah, exactly. Because he's like, well, I didn't used to be. It seemed too, cut and dried, too clean. That, whatever you do, it's going to come back, But now he's like... Maybe having lived a little more with that and magic, and especially these last couple of years, the way things are now with him getting more heavily into that, he might be seeing bigger picture and might be seeing how things are coming back more. And now maybe it's kind of like, oh shit, like, yeah, maybe it didn't matter with my little flick'em-bickus before but now all of a sudden I just,
some carnage. It's gonna,
like maybe there is something to all of that.
Well, yeah, whether or not you believe in karma, there's clearly going to be consequences from this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a lot more of him. He's like, well, whether or not I want to avoid any cosmic injustice, like, shit clearly is gonna...
Well, but I'm
going to clearly have to face the music at some point.
The doubling down on it and stuff like that is like, is it gonna, I think that's kind of what he's saying, is it's going to be worse than just...
All right, which is,
the bare bones of it,
And Michael
it's
even,
not an eye for an eye, it's going to be like an eye for a head now. Yeah. He's like, shit.
And Michael even says as much as he's like, well, like, the ball was, like, supposed to be the consequences, and you lived through them, so you should be good now, right? And Harry's like, ha 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 ha, ha ha, no. Yeah. There is the issue of the White Court, and the White Council, and the Red Court, and the Black Court, which were all there. Plus, a dragon was also watching the proceedings. Oh, and so was Leah. So let's throw in the fairies.
So many witnesses.
Exactly. Like, it's not just Harry in a back alley with Kyle and Kelly. Like, this is like, listen, I was there on official business. Even if everyone else doesn't want to step into it, my own guys have to hit me in the head for it, like...
Yeah. Right. He was the one that threw the first punch.
Which is,
finally made him,
As much as, you can say that he was, forced into it, that don't matter to anyone.
Yeah.
He
made that choice.
Which is why Bianca is so much of a genius, he died doing the right thing. And Harry says, too, he's like, motherfucker.
It was
okay.
right there.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
roll into this.
Well, even like this, because like you say, Michael's like, well, she took her shot and missed. And he's like, do you really think she's going to keep it? He's like, yeah, he just gives him a look. He's like, of course, and so do you, or you wouldn't have spent... you wouldn't have played watchdog here for the past day. And Michael's like, right, exactly. Michael could have gone home to his wife and his kid and seen how they were doing and been there. But, right, obviously, he's like, there's something in the back of your mind because you stayed and watched over me while I was out of it. So, obviously, you don't feel like it's...
You don't think that it's over.
Yeah, and Michael's like, yeah, okay, fair, I guess you're right. But I mean, again, I'd be talking it out loud like that, too. Like, really? Like, this should have been it. They can't...
And this is the nice thing about Michael,
but they will.
is that we know whenever Michael's in the picture, God is at work, right? Like, you can argue all day long, like, as Harry does. He's like, no, that's Michael. Like, you put way too much on God. And Michael's always like, no. I'm here because, like, if God wanted me to go home, Charity would have demanded I go home right now, the fact that Charity is just not speaking to me is allowance that I should be here.
I was going to say,
or whatever,
she's pissed, but she's not going to tell me to do different.
Things like, so that's always Michael's thing. And, as someone who's read the entire series, it's a little bit easier for me to be like, yeah, God is a bigger player than Harry's willing to give him credit for,
sure,
like,
it's easy. That's the beauty of being the reader
exactly,
and being on
right?
the outside.
So we can say for ourselves, like, as much as like, oh, good point, you're still
Harry.
here, right? It's like, yeah, right. It's like, no. God wants Michael to be here right now for this moment. There's a reason, right?
Yeah.
Which we see very soon enough. Why is Michael still at Harry's?
Well, it's also because he didn't know what to do with, because he's all like, where's Lydia? Oh, she's right here on my couch. It's like, well, I guess he could have dropped her off back up Fort Hills or something, but that didn't really go all that well the first time. So I suppose if, she'd wigged out and tried to flee again, that wouldn't have...
Dresden starts to try to make plans with Michael, but at this point, Michael says that he can't be there for him. That he's taking this as a sign that he needs to be there for his wife and child because he doesn't have the sword anymore. Mm-hmm. So he's really like, I can't do it anymore.
And furthermore, like, I think the pressing issue is his son is still in limbo. Like, the doctor's like, we don't even know what's wrong right now. Mm-hmm. And, like, we can all stand off to the side and be like, this is a magical effect, the kid. Like, Rory and Amy getting pregnant in the TARDIS. Like, brand new baby exposed to that kind of shit apparently changes genetic or affects it or something. Like, we can all say, like, yeah, this kid... if Charity went into induced labor because of a psychic nightmare problem, right? Like, that, it's easy for us to say, well, this kid is having issues,
there
right?
Must be,
But Michael is a little bit more like, we don't know, like whatever. But to the same thing, like, Michael's entire power works off of faith. So he's like, I gotta go be with my kid. Like, if my kid has any chance at all, it's having my power being powered by faith. The best thing I can do for my child is to share as much of that faith I've got with me to him, and hope,
Yeah.
Right.
His
he
presence
doesn't really
is
have
enough.
much faith in himself without the sword that he can
Even,
help. So that alone just debilitates him.
Which is even a little bit funnier to say, like, after that whole mess at Bianca's, he did it all without the sword, and we were all like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, see, I would say he's having the doubt. I don't know that he completely, because that's who he is in that sense of that he's like, I have to keep, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to change the core of him that way. He's not having faith of like, well, what was it all for? There's no point, you know what I mean? Is that, he's like, maybe God's telling me it's not going to be, but again, to Michael, it's like he's very much still going to be, I will be there for my wife, I will be there for my kids, I will still go to work every day, I will still, that's what being a man is, that's what being, and sort of his faith is just like, doesn't occur to him that you would do that any different, right? He's like, he will still carry, he's not going to suddenly be like, I'm sleeping, I'm just going to hang out on the couch and drink all day, like.
I think it's really interesting because he's, with Michael, when he doesn't have a chance to think about what's going on, he doesn't doubt himself. He is just doing what he needs to do, and he's into it. He's
got no life.
Yeah. But the second he, like, that action stops, he's just like, oh, brain takes over, and he goes, oh,
yeah,
I can't do this. But no, you've been proving that you can.
Right? I can relate to that a lot. If you're just, like, doing it, you're just doing it. But as soon as somebody says, hey, you're going to do this, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
It's a very relatable moment.
That fully shows, like, how Harry described him at the beginning of the book. Is like, he's not self-righteous. He is a righteous man. Like,
yes.
It's not that he, like, necessarily, like, doesn't believe in what he's doing, but the fact is that he just, like, is so fully, like, places himself in God's hand that he's like, everything I do is for God. until he has to think, he's like, wait, was that for God or was that for me? What am I, right? But he just does it. Yeah, he's like, no, everything I do is in the power of his name.
Yeah.
Until he's like, oh God, I'm just a mortal man. What is wrong with me? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Until he suddenly realizes that he walked off the cliff and there's nothing underneath him.
Yeah.
He's fine when he doesn't stop and think about it.
that whole Hawaii coyote bullshit.
I get you every time, hey?
Well, this is really quite a test of faith for himself.
But I like how it's a test of faith without him having to spiral and go. You know, Harry gets to spiral and go down the path. Harry can be like, right, whereas Michael never actually, right, he can have some doubt and some faltering without having to go against any of his, you know what I mean? I'm like, he still gets to be himself.
He still is always, faithful that no matter what, God is still in control, whether or not he wants Michael as the Knight of the Sword or not.
Exactly. But that's what I mean is he doesn't have to, hit rock bottom and like turn the other way and like go rogue for a while and then come back to it or anything like that. It's like, no, it's not that far of a test. It's just enough to like...
I'm just worried about this. I'm worried about this.
And the thing is, like, Harry has to constantly wonder, like, do I believe in the right things? Is my power enough? Like, he's got to constantly believe in himself, whereas God is like, or when Michael is like, God's never gonna wane.
Well, and
so that's always a sturdy balance right there. Like,
right, and that's the thing right here when he's freaking out getting in the shower before he starts the conversation with Michael is that's it. He's like, you can't do anything with magic that's not in you. Like, that's where his core belief, right? So he's like, I had that anger and destruction in me somewhere for me to be able to pull, like, yeah, they provoked it or whatever, right? But he's like, that's his whole thing about how he was taught and how he believes in magic is like, you can't do anything
you don't believe
that you don't believe it, right? So he's like, for me to obtain, and again, he always refers to it as like the powers of creation and that. So anytime he does something really destructive, right? I mean, like, obviously he uses his magic of, sure, I'll, pull the gun out of your hands and whack somebody else across the face with it. Sure, I'll send a blast of fire to, get you to move out of my way or whatever, all of that kind of. But yeah, sort of this kind of a thing is just like way beyond, that's not using it for creation
why
and
he's
for
so
good.
afraid
That's purely, of how much power.
Shadow Man or Mavra, or as we see future dark wizards, he's like, holy shit, the fact that they can make their magic do that means that they're fucked up in the head. So yeah, when he's looking at himself in the mirror, metaphorically or not, whether or not he actually has a mirror or not.
Right.
Yeah, he's just like, oh God, like.
Yeah.
It's like he realizes how easy it is to be able to go down that path.
Well, exactly, right? To know that it's, he can tell himself he's a good man all the time, but then how am I able to do that?
He can stand around, insulting the White Council all day long for, like, punishing him for being a self-defense 16-year-old killing Justin, but you've got to understand, like, this is the same thing they're looking at. Like, if he's capable of killing Justin with magic, that's in him. We've got to be wary of that, right?
Yeah.
Which is why, like, it's a little bit funny that Harry's always got this dichotomy about him where he's just like, fuck you, assholes, but it's like, hypocrite.
Well, again, that's like all of us, right? Kids always think they know better, but I can't wait until I'm old enough and I can drink pop all day and I can stay up as late as I want. And then you become an adult and you're like, oh my God, pop makes me fat, or pop makes me sick, or pop is just not good for me and I have to go to bed at 8 o'clock because I have to get up and work in the morning. It's like, it all sounds wonderful until you get there and you're like, oh, fuck.
I kind of wonder if Harry has this, because he's got this sort of hero complex and he's always really doting on himself. And I wonder if that's doting on, or trying to get himself to do the right thing always. And I wonder if this is overcompensation because he recognizes that it would be so easy for him, because he's got that, he does have that darkness in him. It is present. It's there.
And I think that is, and it'll come more of where Harry, that is why he toes the line so hard. Because, when
you've got Harry at the beginning of every book, when he's, generally speaking, at the beginning of every book, he's more or less well-rested, and he's more or less, like, things have been calm for a little while, and maybe he's, like, low on rent money or hasn't eaten in a couple weeks, depending on the book, but for the most part, he starts every book tip-top, and then, you see him being like, that's not morally right, or I shouldn't talk to this person, like, when Monica, or, not Monica, when Marcone came to him, or when... Oh, yeah, it was Monica. Yeah, when she came to him, when Lydia came to him, he was a little bit more eager to be like, get away from me. Like, I don't need your work from you. I need to talk to you. I need to entertain this, right? But we see in the middle of the books when, like Bianca or again, Marcone or Kyle and Kelly, more of the evil people come to him in the middle of the book, and then he is like, oh, okay, let's talk, right? Because it's like, it just takes a moment of desperation, and then he's suddenly like, okay, we're evil again. And it's like, no, wait.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden when there's a lot more
like when he's in his tip-top shape, he's like, no, we don't mix with those people, we don't know them. But then it takes halfway through the book when he hasn't slept in a couple of days and he's suddenly just like, that's a little bit of like, like, I'm not evil, but I can like, like if I have to team up with you to defeat this other evil, that's fine, right?
I'll deal with you after.
But you can kind of see like, we're at the beginning of the book, he's like, fuck no, and then I don't swear, okay? But in the middle of the book, he's like, okay, well, like, we'll team up for this one small thing. Yeah. Only because, Michael and Murphy and Susan are all dead now and I have no choice.
That's, the very Christian thing with Michael, the whole temptation and stuff like that, right? Like, it's easy to not be tempted when you've got everything you need and don't. But when you're, like you say, Bill Gates doesn't need to steal a loaf of bread from his local grocery store. Whereas the guy that's got nothing, I'm like, well, for him, then that risk becomes, and you start to moralize how it's not that bad, it's just the grocery store, it's one, you know what I mean? It's like that whole thing. Yeah. But if suddenly Bill Gates find himself, in a foreign country with nothing and no way to prove who he is or what he is or how he is, well, let's see. Is he going to think about stealing a loaf of bread? Because, once you got to eat, you got to eat. Did Winona Ryder
really need all that clothing?
There, right.
Well, I guess it's a little bit of that, like you get to that moral dichotomy of where you start to convince yourself, like, I'm Robin Hood, I'm Aladdin, like, it's okay, like, I've got a bigger picture thing going on here, and...
Well, okay, but I was talking about just the general sense of, like, yes, temptation kind of a thing.
Well, yeah,
it's a lot easier to, if your friends are like, hey, let's, shoplift from this, like...
But Harry's the one who always turns into Robin Hood, like, you steal from the rich, give to the poor. Mm-hmm. My reasoning is good. Like, I should be allowed to break the rules because, in the end, I'm doing it for this greater purpose or whatever like that. And then you get these moments of doubt when he's like, but was I stealing from the rich? Or did I just steal from some guy? Or was I giving to the poor or was I just giving to me? Like,
after the fact again, but like you say, that's what I mean, is like, when you're up high, it's easy to be like, Marconi, you suck. But then when you get down in the middle of it, you're like, okay, I'm just going to Robin Hood this shit. And then you get afterward and you're like, oh, well, wait, was that the right...
Well, we'll really see in like 11 books or so when he's done who he's willing to make deals with.
Right.
But
So Michael kind of, anyways, at this point is like, you convinced me to go to the party and stuff like that. Maybe I should really, like, leave you at it for right now. They took their shot. We don't know what's going to go. I'm going to go check on my wife and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, we'll start to regroup. And then...
Well, Dresden really begins to question, what the hell? None of this really adds up. Like, something is off. Mm-hmm. And then, as you were about to say...
bang, bang, bang.
Enters Thomas.
And I love this where he's all like jumps to the side of it. Like, everybody just grabs a weapon first.
Well, Justin just outright just punches him. Boom.
Once he opens the door. But it's like, as soon as it knocks, they just go, who the fuck is at my door? Which I'm like, okay, I guess you just totally came from a party where I'm trying to kill you. But it's just, like, so funny that they're just kind of chatting and, like, recapping and, like, figuring out. And then, like, one knock on the door and they're like... And then, the second he sees who it is, it's
like, you bastard.
Valid. Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's funny because, like, the whole time I was, like, reading this book again for the first time, like, 2 or 3 years or something now, was enough for me to be like, how do they get the sword back? I don't even remember.
Yeah. And this is how, he comes with a peace offering.
Yeah, he makes a plea for them to just listen, that he wants to help.
And he really doesn't make a very good plea in some ways. Because he's like, just listen to me. And they're like, why should we listen to you? And he's like, no, I'm a totally good liar. You're right. You shouldn't trust me. But I'm like, that's not helping your case right now. Like, I get, there's being honest and being like, you're right. But it's like, you're like, well, don't. But actually, no, do. Because I need you to for a minute. It's like...
Trust me, even though I'm going to give you reasons why you shouldn't.
Yeah, basically.
That's how a good argument works.
That's not really what you want to throw in there right now, Thomas, but okay.
Well, Thomas does inform them that Susan is alive, and so is Justine. So he offers right away that valuable bit of information, like that they don't have.
Yeah, and this is where he kind of tried to, because Dresden's like, why the fuck, like, you betrayed us in an instant, and that's where he kind of been like, apparently this is what that look was supposed to mean, like, really, I was going to help you out right away again, but, but Dresden is still, like, fuck you and the horse you rode in on, and he's doing a lot of scrambling here, too. But he has information about what went on afterwards.
Right. And Dresden does eventually give Thomas a chance. He sort of sees that he looks sincere enough-ish, that he can tell, at least. and they get instantly rewarded by Thomas for letting him go and not beating the shit out of him. Thomas tells him to look in this rifle case, which turns out to have Amoracchius Amoracchius in it.
Yes. And it's really kind of a funny back and forth because, like you say, Michael and Dresden are generally the good guys, you know? And Harry does usually do the monsters are bad, it's all, you know, or give people the benefit of the doubt and look beneath, you know? Like with Michael, you can almost understand it a little bit because Michael is a little bit more black and white. Vampires aren't good. They're demonic entities. There's just no, which is fair, right? But it's like even Dresden is just like, you know, like you say, he punches him, chucks him across the room. Michael like stomps on him, holds like a poker to his face or whatever, and he's like, no, wait. And Harry's like, yeah, no, I don't feel like waiting. Let's just, you know, and even. Right? But it's just they have sort of this back and forth where it's like they're really just not gonna, you know, Harry's like, no, I don't want to, I'm tired, let's just kill him. He's like has to keep, you know, and it's just, yeah. And
to be fair, though, they would have gone through the rifle case after they killed him anyways.
Right.
Could have killed Harry and gotten the sword out of the way.
that is true. They
Could
would
have killed
have
Thomas, sorry. And
killed
gotten the
Thomas
rifle.
and gotten, but yeah, he's just like, I don't want to listen to him. And he's like, well, he is a vampire. And he's like, think we should kill him? And they're like, yeah, I think that would be, you know.
This is, I brought up Aladdin. It's in my head now. Star Kid does this musical or whatever like that of, it's like Jafar, like the, you know, if Jafar was good or what's his story sort of a thing, you know, like Wicked. And in Aladdin's song, they make him a much more bad guy than good guy, right? And he's like, he comes up to like this bread seller who he stole the bread from that morning, and he's like, I don't remember the exact lyrics, so nobody come for me, but basically he's like, hey man, you gotta stop putting raisins in it. I hate raisins. I was talking to Monkey, and he says we should just kill you. And I'm like, whoa, no, Monkey, we can't kill him. But then I thought, yeah, no more fucking raisins. It's like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
one
Thomas,
less
you're
fucking
right.
vampire.
Yeah, right? Reason right now. Yeah. So he gets, so he's like, why should I believe you? He's like, he shouldn't. Don't. I'm a good liar. One of the best. I'm like, you're really not helping your case. So then he's like, yeah, Bianca double cry. Well, Thomas, she's what we like to call a bad guy.
They do that.
So that's when he's like, yeah. See, and here he does know because he says they have Dresden's woman. So see, he didn't know it was his girlfriend.
You know by the end of it. Don't know by the beginning. He doesn't necessarily know.
By the time he's kicking her into the crowd, that was like the last thing that happened before Dresden passed out, and here he is knowing. So I would say.
So I like that once Michael gets that sword, it's like a switch has just been like instantly like gone. He's like, there's more work to be done. Ha ha!
Yeah.
And both Harry and Michael confirm that it still has its power. They didn't undo it.
Well, yes, that was it. Because Harry can sense as soon as he goes for the case, he starts to feel the vibration and he's like, whoa, and then flips it open and ta-da.
So it's extra
Make it do its glowy thing. Do it.
It's extra props to Thomas that he was able to recover it before they were able to use it on someone else,
right.
and that he himself didn't use it either.
Although it sounds like there was kind of a match goal. I think, Thomas. I don't see Thomas being, well, I mean, again, the only reason he would have had it if somebody came at him, and I don't know if that still would have been the same.
It was still a room full of vampires that wanted to kill Thomas. Harry got a lot of them. He didn't get all of them.
Yeah, I know, but if Thomas was simply using it to defend it, like, the reason Harry did is because Harry was trying to get at it.
I'm not saying he used it to defend it. I said he recovered it at some point, too.
No, I know.
And has gone for the last day and night, he said, being chased by Bianca's people.
Yes, you just said that Thomas didn't do anything and Lee didn't use it, and I'm just saying, I don't know for sure in the same way, like, if Thomas had just used it in straight self-defense, that it would have undone it the same way.
Well, I don't know. I think a vampire in and of itself just can't use this
Maybe, but I mean, yes, I see that he wouldn't, but
he didn't take.
But yeah, I was going to say the fact that, I'm assuming there was just a lot going on, because after he flung Mavra and she lost her grip on it, then they were all too busy being burned out and just grabbing what they couldn't run, that yes, it's fortunate. Again, maybe that's a little bit of that divine intervention that like skittered off under a bush somewhere or something, and like Mavra didn't have time to like hunt it out in the chaos, so it was like one of those, where's the fucking, and then, but yes, I was going to say, at least, we know it was interrupted before then, and everything is still fine.
I will say, though, it's one other thing to throw in there, that Harry also destroyed all their food sources, so they didn't even have any way to top themselves up after all that,
So Thomas lets them in on more information, that the mansion was, in fact, left intact, and that the vampires retreated with the guests inside of it, and so that they weren't all destroyed.
Yeah.
And that the vampires are turning the guests and are feeding on them.
Yes, because she's allowed to do that now that she's all elevated. She can make her own without permission or whatever it is.
Yeah. And Mavra also took some guests with her, and that she's left town.
She took one for the road
Right.
and
And
had
that-
to lunch.
The mansion is now guarded by humans, by mortals.
By mortals
with
and things.
nasty guns.
With nasty
With
guns.
assault rifles.
Yeah. So yeah, torched all. The yard and everything was lost. Michael called the fire department, got them there pretty quickly and contained it that way. And then that was exactly. It was like the fire chief goes into what the fuck and then comes out, oh no, it's all fine. And then they discovered that there's not going to be anybody looking into the fire, like the police, because what he says is that he talked to Stallings, because Murphy was still out of it. He talked to Stallings. Stallings tried to get SI involved, and then it was like no police at all. So they figure, she's got her
Higher
fingers in City Hall or whatever.
Right.
And then furthermore, Thomas fills in the fact that Bianca granted a couple of these thralls to Mavra, kept the
Yes.
other half for themselves, and they're pretty much
Yeah.
turning the majority of them to rebuild their ranks.
That's
So
what
now,
she was just saying. Yeah, but I was going to say that Dresden does
yeah,
figure
but-
there's going to be
but-
some looking into the missing persons, but there's not going to be no official police
But-
investigation into.
Mavra specifically got some of them for herself. It wasn't all being turned into Red Court. Mavra's been allowed to take some of
Yes.
them to turn into her Black Court. It's
Or
a separate
eat
thing.
them or whatever she was going to do with them, yes.
Well, no, it specifically says that she's got hungry new mouths to feed.
Oh, yes, a couple of new mouths to feed, yes. You're right, you're right,
It's
you're
like
right.
we're specifically getting a couple more black vamps on the court, which we know is a rare thing right now. They're very decimated in numbers.
So, yes, the
I would
fire.
think after the amount of time that they've... It sounds like it's been a while since
And they've had a couple hundred years too.
yeah, like, how come they haven't replenished their numbers?
And in all that time, the Black Court hasn't built up again. But they also haven't been allowed to. You know, the White Council's been a little bit on the scene.
Well, I was
Like,
going to say, I'm assuming that, some of the Black Court, I mean, they might be allies, but let's face it, probably the White and Red maybe can't do it overtly, but I'm sure behind the scenes they're not helping them get.
they're happy to keep the Black Court.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, isn't that a little bit of his point with the whole Stoker's big bad book of that, is that
It's a lot
if-
easier to kill them off than it is the other...
Yeah, even
the other
regular
courts.
humans.
Yeah,
you know?
if regular people are coming across it, they immediately go for a stake to the heart or a thing of garlic or holy water. So
Having,
it might be harder to.
Yeah, having like probably I don't really know what the numbers are, but let's say
I don't know.
30% of Earth. Well, it wouldn't be 30% that's actually wearing a cross around their neck, but at least
I
like
don't. Well,
a
yeah.
good percentage of the population is just walk across the entire Earth is walking around with a cross around their neck or putting garlic on their pizza. Like
Yeah, so that's true globally. You don't have to worry about, garlic's only native to this area. It's only those
Yeah,
people are. Now it's exactly with our global communities, it's so much easier to. So I could see that part of it, that not for lack of trying, maybe.
And on top of that, it's also sunlight. This just hurts the blacks more than anything else. We know that the White Court can go out in the sun.
Yeah, well,
And
the Reds too.
And we know the Reds can go out in the sun if they have their flesh suit on.
No, because that's how he blasted Bianca. She was in her
Oh,
flesh
yes, even in the
suit.
flesh they can't go out.
So the white we learn
are the only ones who can go out in the
are
sun.
basically they don't matter, but the blacks
Yeah.
and reds can't handle the
So
sunlight.
just one more, one more
handicap.
handicapped on the Black Court,
That yes, our cities are getting much safer at night. They're all lit up, and we have cars and things, and it's not so much riding around in dark alleys and
If you don't have, an underground city underneath your city,
very
your monster
limited.
problem is very limited, yeah.
Hello, Chicago, with your underground city underneath the city.
So once they find out that they've got that there are vampires still at the mansion and that it's being
And that-
fortified, they decide that they want to
Justine
ask
and Susan are still
somebody
there,
who knows a bit about the mansion, which is Lydia,
Yes.
and they go to
Yes.
try to see if she's awake because she has been sleeping.
For the first time in ages. Oh, shit. Wait, what?
So she wakes up.
What did you just
Well,
say?
somebody wakes up. Not
I don't like
Lydia.
this. Like he's checking on her, and Michael's like, I don't think she's had any sleep in days. And all of a sudden, that's when the penny finally clicks for her. Which, I mean, granted, Dresden's been through a bit in the last bit and was both, physically and mentally roughed up in the last. But he's like, oh shit, and literally starts to back up. And she's like, haha, gotcha. It's like, oh, fuck me. So,
Lydia's a little bit smarter than you are, Dresden. And you just
she's
get
just been-
thrown all back to the beginning of this when she's talking to you. Like, what was her predictions? And he even says as much, Cassandra's tears, she can see the future. Well, she's already given you a prediction. How did you fucking listen to it, bitch?
right.
Right, you'd think that she would be listened to, but because of that curse. She can't.
Fire.
No matter how hard they try, they can't seem to listen.
Right? Fire and destruction, and you were at the center of all of it.
Well, and she also says about herself that the nightmare is following her. I don't remember exactly what she said, but she like had 3 dreams about the nightmare following her or something. I can't think of her exact words, but literally it's like we know for a fact the nightmare has been on Lydia's heels this whole book, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And she's been keeping herself awake this whole book, you know?
Well, that's the thing, is that she's been trying desperately to not
stay
sleep
awake,
because
so-
of...
Well, that's a long time to stay awake. Like, that is enough
Yeah.
to
It is,
drive
and-
somebody insane and your brain starts swelling
Well,
and
you
doing
have
all
to
sorts
assume
of terrible shit.
she got some reprieve when the vamps got her, because then she was just drugged up and
Yeah.
doped. So one, he doesn't need to possess her because that's with the allies too. If she's all dopey and he can't really do anything with her anyways, you know. So I'm like, you think, yeah, she finally got a little bit of sleep in between but yeah, she's been up for like a couple of days between like Dresden and the church and getting snatched. And then now she's going to be
Right, I forgot about
back
that
at...
she was drugged.
Yeah, right. But now she's, exactly, all before. So, I mean, she's still not doing, like you say, Michael still basically like, I don't think she slept well in the last few days and hasn't,
Clips
you know,
her
so
hair.
there hasn't been much. Yeah, that's what kind of tips him off.
But that must have been amazing. Like, imagine to be Mavra, you know, and just know that they took your little pawn into their safe house, you know? Like, she must have been like,
yeah, Trojan horse, like.
fully
by all
Trojan
means,
horse, yeah.
Go ahead and rescue her.
Lydia, right?
Yeah.
Because again, like, imagine, like, it's horrible to say, but had Thomas kicked Lydia into the fray and
I know, I was even
Michael
semi-thinking
carried
that.
out Susan, right? That would have been,
Yeah, because Susan isn't on
Complete
the radar
matter.
for Kravos at all.
well,
Like,
No.
yeah, no, not at all, right? They wouldn't have had that connection to her, right? And as much as, yes, sorry, Lydia, and the whole point that Harry threw this punch was to save Lydia, it's at the same time, it's like, Thomas, you kicked the wrong girl.
I know,
Sacrificed the
that's what I'm
wrong
saying. I'm
one.
like, you could have just flung Lydia out there and say, but at the same time, Harry was still a little ways back up the, you know,
I know,
it wasn't
I know,
the
I
same.
know.
I know. But yes, yeah, she had been so,
Lydia picks Dresden up and throws him towards the fireplace.
yeah.
Like a little cliffhanger again.
Should have kept her from sleeping or killed her before she woke. Which, I mean, okay, granted, but at the same time, it's like the whole fucking point is we were saving her. Why would we kill her before she woke up? We kept her from sleeping. That would have been helpful, but it really was not going to occur to them like, well, we just rescued her. I guess we can kill her now.
Yeah, right. But, I mean, par for the course, you know, Harry always figures it out a second too late.
Yeah. That's the crux, so.
And it does, again, make for great
Yeah.
cliffhangers
Of
at the end
course.
of the chapter. Makes you really want to keep reading that next one.
Some days just doesn't pay to get out of bed.
Can't put that book down yet. Can't put it down. This concludes our episode 8.17, Things We Lost in the Fire. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.